it's difficult for people to grasp, of course, because we were taught not to think in iconic or symbolic forms anymore. But it's amazing to discover that the mushroom with the red head is literally analogized in iconography as the red-headed woman, who is either Mary or Mary Magdalene or who have you. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of the Egyptian women did dye their hair. I believe a lot of them were redheads to begin with. That ties into the whole West to East movement. But just even the dyeing of the hair to be red was to simulate, because remember there is this topic of the what's called the sacred harlot or the sacred prostitute, and these were women who were always attached to priestarchies and to temple precincts, and they would, of course, not only be involved in very specific, important rites which involve some sexual symbolism, but they also just performed even lower level sexual, roles for the priests. And they were known as the Herodolai, they were known as the sacred prostitutes, and they would often go and take their mates under trees, in groves. So there was also a whole aspect to this that people nowadays would look at it as being profane, but of course that's the prejudice of our own age. In those days it wasn't considered that at all. So they would even copulate under the trees, amongst these mushrooms, be on them as well, let's not doubt for a moment, and therefore in some sort of like hallucinogenic fit.
You mean these mushrooms that look like phallics and that represent both male and female genital parts while they're having intercourse on them?
Yeah.
Really?
That's part of it. And more importantly is that and then what happened is because it was so much part of the feminine rights, sexual rights, somehow a tie-in happened where the female herself, they were actually even called virgins, amazingly enough, because of course the term being that if you weren't married to the man, you could still, in mythological terms, or ritualistic terms, be still referred to as a virgin. These were women who were attached to the ancient cults of the ancient world, and they satisfied the needs of the priests and of the kings of the time. And somehow some weird tie-in happened. I guess you got to be on the stuff for this to happen, I don't know, but the tie-in took place where the mushroom literally not only was phallic, as we know it was, it also became a symbol of the woman herself. And certainly the artists picked up on this in their iconography. So basically, as you'll see, people go to the appendices, they'll see pictures of this. Whenever you see the red-headed female, and I don't care if it's in the work of Signorelli or Caravaggio or even earlier, like Raphael and Botticelli, of course, this striking figure of the red-headed sacerdotal female is actually a simulacra, literally stands for the tree of life or the mushroom of life. They're identical. And then, of course, if you rewind and go back to the story of Moses meeting God, quote unquote, at the tree of life, this burning bush, suddenly an interesting story starts to awaken. Not only that the name Jehovah is feminine, but that the tree of life that he meets Yahweh at is also a symbol of the sacerdotal female. So this really, puts a new sheen on things, and I believe it's the true story. It actually explains things greatly, and it's one of the reasons why the Bible was written in this kind of code. And it's one of the reasons, to answer your original question, why the church, you see, have gone out of their way to suppress the female right across the board, and also to get us away from what they would call pagan, profane tropes and elements of these ancient ways, is because they have co-opted it. They dress as the female. They dress as the sacred mushroom. I mean, the little hat, the yarmulke thing that they put on their heads and all that.
Yeah, we brought a lot of attention to that in both our book and video.
There you go. And the halo. Some halos are actually designed to look like a horizontally placed, underside of a Alameda muscara. So it's unbelievable.
Representing the gills, etc.
Mm-hmm. And don't forget the tarot plays a role in this, because studying the tarot helps to decode the Bible. For instance, card number 2, the high priestess, is literally not only is she sitting in front of 2 pillars, or between 2 pillars, which is Kabbalistic, but behind her you even have a 10-fruited tree of life, the pomegranate tree, sacred to Persephone, sacred to the goddesses of the underworld. And of course there's a syzygy involved. She's both the sacred female, but she's also the sexual, erotic high priestess who initiates man, as the pagans did. The sacerdotal female, or one of her wards, always initiated the man into his sexuality and into deeper mysteries as well. So it's not just as simple as genital sexuality, it's an initiation into the portal, into the true mysteries of nature, and which include the mysteries of man himself. The fact that this was done with drugs, people can draw their own conclusions whether they think that is reprehensible or not. I actually personally do think it's reprehensible. I have no time for that stuff myself. But again, as a student of these things, we have to leave those prejudices aside. And the point being that this is how they did things. And in a way, it's no different than what's being done today. The cult that is posing, the cult that's hiding behind, Vatican religion today is no less involved in these things. They just keep it very quiet, as we know.